Have you ever noticed how some people just stop trying after a certain age? Not because they're bitter, not because they don't want connection, but because something inside them changed. And most people think it's about being hurt too many times. But that's not the real reason. The real reason is way deeper than that. And understanding it might explain why you feel the way you feel right now. Before we go deeper, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling me if this resonates with you. Because what I'm about to share changes everything. Most people think giving up on love is about disappointment. You trusted someone. They let you down. So you build a wall. And eventually, the wall becomes permanent. That's the common explanation. But that's not what's really happening. Because if it was just about protection, the desire would still be there. The need for connection would still exist. But in many cases, it doesn't. Pay attention to this. Let me paint you a picture. You're in your late 40s. You've been through a few relationships. Some worked for a while. Others fell apart quickly. And somewhere along the way, you stopped imagining a future with someone. Not because you're afraid, but because the energy it takes to start over feels overwhelming. You look at a potential partner and think about all the work, the getting to know each other phase, the adjusting to someone else's habits, the compromises, the vulnerability, and something in your brain says, I don't have the bandwidth for this anymore. This is more common than you think. Here's what most people miss. It's not that your heart got colder. It's that your brain got smarter. And that's where the psychology gets interesting. Because around your 40s and 50s, something shifts in how your brain processes reward and effort. Your nervous system has been collecting data your entire life. Every relationship, every disappointment, every moment of joy, every moment of pain. And by the time you hit middle age, your brain has built a very clear map. A map that says, this is how much energy love requires, and this is what you typically get back. And here's the part most people don't realize. Your brain starts doing cost-benefit analysis automatically, without you even noticing. You meet someone new. They seem nice, but instead of feeling excitement, you feel calculation. Your brain is already running the numbers. How much emotional investment will this take? How many nights of deep conversation? How many compromises on weekend plans? How much vulnerability will I need to show? And then it asks, is the potential payoff worth it? And for many people over 40, the answer becomes, probably not. There's a detail here that almost nobody notices. This isn't conscious. You're not sitting there with a calculator. But your subconscious mind is doing exactly that. It's protecting your energy. Because by middle age, you've learned something crucial. Energy is finite. Time is finite. And you can't afford to waste either one. So your brain starts filtering. It becomes more selective. Not because you're damaged, but because you're efficient. Think about this. When you were 25, starting a new relationship felt like an adventure. The uncertainty was exciting, the late-night conversations, the learning about someone new, the butterflies, all of it felt like possibility. But by 50, that same uncertainty feels like work, because you've done it before. You know how it starts, you know the patterns, and you know how it can end. So the novelty is gone, and without novelty, the brain doesn't release the same amount of dopamine. Which means the motivation drops. Here's where it gets even deeper. This isn't about being pessimistic. This is about pattern recognition. Your brain is designed to learn from experience, and after decades of relationships, it has learned very well. It knows which behaviors lead to conflict. It knows which personality types clash with yours. It knows what red flags look like in the first month. So when you meet someone new, your brain is scanning for those red flags immediately. And the moment it finds one, it sends a signal. This probably won't work. Not as a thought, but as a feeling. A subtle lack of enthusiasm, a quiet resistance. And this is what people misunderstand. They think they've given up on love, but really, they've just become experts at spotting incompatibility early. Their brain has gotten so good at pattern recognition that it filters out most people before emotions even get involved, which looks like giving up, but it's actually just efficiency. Now pay attention to this part. There's another layer. By the time you reach your 40s and 50s, you've also built a life that works for you. You have routines. You have peace. You have control over your space. Your mornings are yours. Your weekends are predictable. Your emotional energy is stable. And the idea of letting someone into that life feels risky because you know what it costs. Letting someone in means negotiating. It means adjusting your routines. It means less control. It means opening yourself up to disappointment again. And your brain asks, is it worth disrupting the peace I've built? And for many people, the honest answer is, I'm not sure. Here's the thing most people won't tell you. This isn't about being closed off. It's about having standards. Real standards, not superficial ones. You're not looking for someone who checks boxes. You're looking for someone who fits into a life you've spent years building. And that's a very high bar, because you're not willing to settle anymore. You're not willing to compromise on peace for the sake of not being alone. And that's not giving up. That's clarity. But there's a deeper truth hiding here, and it's the part that changes everything. Because behind this entire psychological shift, there's a protective mechanism. Your brain isn't just being efficient. It's protecting you from a specific kind of pain. The pain of investing deeply and losing again. Because the losses you've experienced weren't just breakups. They were versions of yourself you had to leave behind, dreams you had to let go of, futures you had to rewrite. And your brain remembers that. It remembers the cost of rebuilding, so it does everything it can to avoid that cost again, which means it turns down the intensity of desire. It makes falling in love harder. It makes staying emotionally open feel like effort, not because you're broken, but because you're protecting the version of yourself you've worked so hard to build. And here's the revelation. What looks like giving up is actually a form of self-preservation. It's your mind saying, I've learned enough to know what I need, and I'm not willing to accept less than that. This isn't weakness. This is wisdom. And the reason it feels like giving up is because society tells you that wanting love should feel effortless. That if you're not constantly seeking it, something's wrong with you. But that's not true. Choosing peace over potential chaos isn't giving up. It's choosing yourself. So if you've felt this way, if you've noticed yourself pulling back from love without really knowing why, now you know. It's not that your heart stopped working. It's that your brain started working better. It learned to protect your energy. It learned to recognize patterns. It learned to value peace. And that's not something to fix. That's something to understand. If this resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe because I make videos like this every week. And leave a comment telling me, have you felt this shift in yourself or have you seen it in someone close to you? I want to hear your story. But here's something most people don't realize. There's a behavior that happens right after this shift. A subtle change in how people relate to time and memory. And almost nobody talks about it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. I'll explain that in the next video.